Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about in-house versus off-the-shelf or procured movements and the like, because I think it's a spin-off from what's going on in the industry. I just noticed my picture was hanging up a bit. I hope I'm not getting any glitches in the transmission. Hey, how's it going, my friend Hector? Elusive man. Um, Wristwatch check. Wearing my sub, my 41 ceramic. I really do like this piece. Uh, it's the kind of piece that you wind up wearing more than you think you would, because it is a very easygoing, comfortable piece. For example, like I really do love my silver Snoopy. I really do love this piece. But at night, even though this is loomed, sometimes it's not as easy to read. And I'm one of those lazy people who look at their watch right before, like, I'm still good a little bit, you know. And obviously, the sub, it's a diver, it's really legible, easy to read, and all of that stuff. I mean, I have some other pieces that are also highly legible. I would say my two most highly legible pieces beyond the sub are probably my Sansupri IWC GMT and the Nomos, because the Nomos, I mean, you got that Bauhaus clarity going for you there. Hey, Warren, how's it going, my friend? And Rolexes are 100% in-house movements, you know. Um, but then again, in-house doesn't necessarily mean uh, value as far as cost goes. I mean, it can mean value as far as the investment the company is putting into their products. For example, Seiko. Seiko is completely vertically integrated, which is another fancy way of, in the business sense to talk about having in-house movements, because if you're vertically integrated, everything is in-house. Um, in the case of Seiko's, they even make the quartz crystals that go into their quartz watches, because Seiko is one of those Japanese conglomerates, the closest we have as far as we America, as an American. Proud of my service. Uh, but as an American, the closest America has to a company like Seiko or Hitachi is General Electric. There used to be other companies of that nature, but you can buy a circuit board from GE, you can buy a jet engine from GE, you can buy industrial equipment. They make everything. I shouldn't say everything, but they make a lot of things. They're a very horizontally diverse manufacturer, and so is Seiko. So they've got Seiko Epson, who makes electronic components, including crystal oscillators, and so Seiko can source internally the crystal oscillators that they use in their quartz watches. And so you're talking about a $50 Seiko quartz watch, in-house movement, baby. So in-house doesn't necessarily, magic wand, it is valuable. It just means that the company puts a lot of effort into making a good product, because if you are vertically integrated, it allows you to make sure that every single part of what you're manufacturing of your product uh, is kosher, as it were. For example, one of my biggest complaints about Boeing, and unfortunately, a lot of those chickens are coming home to roost, is once upon a time they were a very vertically integrated company. They manufactured everything in Seattle. They had a very, very high quality control mantra. And the moment they diversified and started and kitted out, they basically spun off divisions and abandoned divisions and started sourcing parts from third parties, and have suffered in quality. They have, vertically integrated, done properly, is always going to beat out a horizontally sourced product. I mean, I'll give you that. but that does not mean that it is necessarily a luxury product. Miyota is very highly vertically integrated. Casio, Citizen. Well, Miyota is Citizen. Um, but a lot of the Asian manufacturers are very highly vertically integrated. I mean, if you look at something like, for example, Seagull. All right. Now this is not a quote unquote real seagull. It's one of the seagulls that are made by one of the many Chinese manufacturers who Seagull sells movements to. So it's a Seagull movement in here. And if you bought a Seagull, it would be very vertically integrated because the company makes the movements and the cases. Actually, they might procure the cases locally. You're not. I would have to look into that. But if you bought well, actually, I look at the Seagull the way I look at German Flieger. It's a design, it's a style. And since the Chinese government was involved in the original purchase of the Venus technology for Seagull, I consider the Seagull watches a genre, a vertical category of watches. And they all have the same movement. They all have the Seagull manufactured movement. So, this may not have a in-house movement, but the Seagull does have an in-house movement, and it's a Chinese watch you can buy for, less than $500, and it's a column wheel, hand-wound chronograph, you know? So, in-house doesn't necessarily mean value, but it does mean that, everything in the watch came or mostly everything, because even some of the companies that make their own movements may procure their hairsprings from someone else, for example, because hairsprings are very difficult to make, things of that nature. Uh, they definitely aren't making their own artificial rubies. So, at some level, they're buying components even for the handmade pieces, unless they're making their own artificial rubies for the jewels. Then I'll give it to them. Gian, hey, Gian. My favorite subject, movements. Very cool. Movement is the reason I even buy these automatic watches. Hands down, I'm all in on Tudor. Tudor makes some good stuff, and now Tudor has in-house. They're sharing it with other companies, but still, they own a percentage of the company that's making their movements, and the movements are being made with them in mind. I would say it's on the level of Etta and Swatch. That Longines, right? The Longines is an in-house movement because it is an Etta, but Etta's part of the Swatch Group, and so is Longines. So this Value 7751 is an in-house movement. And one of the ways you can really see that is if you go to the Master Collection, it's a column wheel. And I don't think there's any other company that has a Value 7751 with a column wheel in it except Longines, which is an example of, yes, it's their movement company too. So theoretically, all of the Swatch movement, all of the Swatch Group companies have in-house movements because they're all the same shop. They have an Etta in it. That Mito, that Certina. Those Ettas, they're in-house movements. Especially if you consider that part of that whole brouhaha with the China and Swiss, where it only takes 65% of the watch value in Switzerland to be considered Swiss made. I would make a significant wager that more than 65% of all of the Swatch Group movements, I mean companies, including Omega, which people are saying, oh, the cases come from China. Considering the Swatch Group is relatively vertically integrated, if you consider them as a group, yeah, those Swatch Group watches have a high in-house percentage. It all depends upon how you're willing to define things. And, like I said, some of it is perspective, but some perspective is valid and some perspective is gray area, you know? Um, oh. Hey, Eric, everybody. Kevin Hawthorne from Lakeland, Florida. Very cool. Greetings from Wiesbaden, Germany. Gian, Tudor with their Kanisi movements are godsend. I'm 100% all in on them. It's the movement I need, nothing more, nothing less. Well, case and face and hands would help. You could buy a movement for $30 on eBay. Uh, I know what you mean, though. Movements are very important. which is why, for example, when Mont Blanc came out with their first in-house movement, they swung for the bleachers. They really pushed hard. Look at that beautiful movement. This is a vertical clutch, column wheel, mono pusher, GMT chronograph. And it's made so well. And this is an in-house movement. It's their first. And it's made so well. You could buy it used and never know that it's an GMT. Oh, now I gotta move the whole thing. Let's get the hands out of the way. All right. You push it, pull it out to the first click, and the GMT's enabled, and boom, see, there's your home time hand. Now it's gone. Now it's there. So you could literally buy this and own it and not even know it's a GMT because the GMT functionality is hidden so well. And of course, as I was saying, it is a mono pusher chronograph. And if you notice, the dial spins, not the hand. So, and actually the fact that it's running just from that little bit that I picked it up because I haven't worn it lately. So it started running just from me picking it up and showing it to you all there, that little bit of movement. So it shows you what a good movement this is. But in-house mono pusher column wheel chronograph, and this is designed to be a luxury piece. And you can pick up one of these for about 5K used. They retail from, I think the current version is like 9,500. So they drop relatively hard in value, but then they keep that value for the foreseeable future as it goes. Like this watch will be worth 5K for the next 10 years. It's not going to go up a lot. It's not going to go down a lot. It took its big hit driving off the lot, as it were. And I picked this up used myself. But if in-house and innovation were all the be all and end all, this would be maintaining way, way better value. This is just a three-hander, and this maintains, and this is already worth more than I paid for it, and I bought it gray market. Some watches are like that. I bought my Silver Snoopy at retail, and we all know how much this has gone up, but that has more to do with the legacy and the history of the watch and its rarity as well, which is another Rolex thing, which is why when I see people upset about the Land Dweller probably going to be very, very rare, I'm like, of course. It's a luxury product. Rolex isn't going to bang them out so that everybody can own one. The Land Dweller is going to be a grail watch for a lot of people. If they came out with one with a nice blue face, I might put it on my grail list, which would still be a grail list because good luck getting your hands on a Land Dweller in the foreseeable future. And that's an in-house movement. But you see, so it has more to do with the branding and the company and the legacy, I think. I mean, of course, the fact that it's in-house is a significant percentage of the cachet of Rolex, but not all of it. And Seiko, they may be very vertically integrated, but they can't stop dodging barbs from misaligned indices and the like. But then they're mass producing watches in the sub $100, sometimes sub $200-300. I mean, if you get a Seiko 5 or something, but yeah, they might make some errors, but every piece came out of the same factory. See, so how important is in-house? Or let's look at a company like Dubois de Pras, right? A lot of companies use Dubois de Pras modules, chronograph modules, for example, in their movements. Some of the Triumvirate have used in the past Dubois de Pras modules in their movements. If that watch has let's say maybe even they have an in-house, like in the case of say the Swatch Group, the watch may have an ETA movement in it, but then a Dubois de Pras chrono module on top. Does it make it less of a watch that it's got I mean, that's why some people criticize the Tag Heuer Monaco versus the El Primero Chronomaster, because the El Primero Chronomaster is an integrated uh, chronograph, self-winding chronograph. The latest iteration of the Monaco is also an integrated chrono, automatic chrono. But the first generation Monaco was the Buren micro rotor uh, chronometer movement attached to a chronograph module, right? Um, at what point do you let, I would almost call it snobbery, but you could also just say fastidiousness if you like to be nice about it. In other words, you may just be a purist in that sense and are willing to spend the money, and you're welcome to do that. But there are a lot of non-in-house movements that are awesome. I mean, just think about the Value 7750, right? I've got 3 watches here that are Value 7750 based, right? We got the Tissot, which is a Value 7753, the Breitling, which has got a Value 77, I forget the number for the GMT chrono module. Well, it's not a module, it's an integrated Vieta in there, and the 7751 in the Longines. You know, each of these 3 watches, each at radically different price points, if I may. This one is about what? Let's talk about used prices. So used, this is about 15. This is about 3, twice as much, and this is about 5 to 6. 6 closer to 6 because it's the GMT. So each one is a doubling of the price of the previous one, and they're all based on the same base movement. So in-house, I don't think it's that. I think it's good. I mean, obviously, like I said, vertically integrated is great, but just because a watch does not have an in-house movement does not mean that it is a piece of dog crap. Oh, I have 4 watches. I forgot. My Cartier Santos 100 XL also is a Value 7753. Although, to show you Cartier, it may look humongously thick, but it is actually thinner. It's thinner than the Tissot, but the Tissot gets away with it a little bit and looks, because it's got a stacked uh, appearance from the side. So this is actually thinner than this one, and they have the basic same movement. You can tell because of the hidden pusher for the date. So there we go. I have 4 watches in my collection that have Value 7750 base movements. They're all still nice. Elusive man, on topic. I am not discriminatory against movements. I don't know why people, well, the snobs anyway, are hating on watches that have ETA movements. Now, if you're going into high horology, then yes. Well, as I was pointing out in my talks about the Chinese stuff, the people who are crapping on watches that have Chinese movements, at least then they can acknowledge that ETA Swiss and Solita Swiss are better than that. Although I shouldn't say better, because there are Chinese movements out there that rival the Swiss. Most of the handmade stuff, but still. Beer check drinking Budvar from Czechoslovakia, the original Budweiser. It not bad tasting. Gian saying hello to everybody. Gian says, "Nah, don't remind me of Longines now, Alex." Yeah, Gian's not got a bad taste about Longines, and I can respect that. I've tried 3 of them: Spirit Conquest, Hydro Conquest. I'm not saying they're mistakes, just learning curves. Well, I did like my Spirit GMT, the Zulu Time. I did like that piece. I sold it. I mean, and I do miss that one a little bit. I wouldn't go ahead and as far as say I'd buy it back, because I have other pieces in my collection now that have replaced them in the rotation, as it were. But no, I liked my Zulu Time, and I keep thinking about that Hydro Conquest GMT. But now that you said that, making me little gun shy. Maybe if I can find one at a good price used. Just gotta scroll. Wow, I love it when we get so many comments. Elusive man, I don't know if you guys saw the new Breitling Super Ocean releases. Yeah, I saw some pictures. Haven't seen yet in the flesh. I am very impressed with them. in-house with the B31. That the new aesthetics on the line are amazing. I might get one. Yeah, I mean, I own a Breitling myself, as you know. I've got the Navitimer. I think Breitling makes some really nice pieces. And the new Super Ocean series, I like that. It's got the cute, chunky minute hand. It would take a bit of a learning curve to glance at it, and but it's a good, well, very legible with that humongous. It's almost like you can almost call it a snowflake minute hand, but it's squared off as opposed to diamond angled like the Tudor on the hour hand. But I thought that was an interesting design touch on that Breitling, on the Breitling Super Oceans, the new ones. Elusive Man, keep saying it. Love that Mont Blanc. It really is one of my favorite pieces in the collection because it's very understated. It's a great suit watch. It just looks gorgeous in a suit. And when you're traveling, it's just great as far as, the GMT functionality and all. I just really like it. I'm trying to get it so that it focuses nicely so you can get a good look. There we go. Just a beautiful piece. Vertical clutch, column wheel, mono pusher, chrono. But then again, the oyster quartz was an in-house movement, right? And I don't know if some of you seen it, but I put a display back on it. I mean, the original back is in the box, so I didn't lose anything. And if you look in the center, you can even see the little pallet fork banging back and forth that runs the second hand. There you go. So in-house definitely is a significant factor, but then you have to leverage against everything else. What's the price point of the watch? Is it a $100 watch, or is it a $100,000 watch? Is it vertically integrated because it's cheap, or inexpensive, I should say, or is it vertically integrated because everything's made by hand by the owner? There are a lot of variables out there when you think about that. Like I was saying, if you think about watches that have modules, Dubois Duprat has a tremendous legacy. I know people who turn their noses up at modular movements without even thinking about it. And some companies make their own modules. So, for example, the Mont Blanc Geosphere has a Sellita. I believe it's the mid-range Sellita. Could be the higher end, but the 20, the 3020, I forget the model number. And they put their own GMT World Time module on top of that. So it's half in-house. It really depends on the company, how they're making the watches, their legacy. I mean, it's all connected. It really is. Hagfish. Hey, Hagfish. Hi, Alex. Just a question about movements. Is the Raymond Weil movements in-house or Sellita? They're called RW movements. I can't find much info about them. Raymond Weil is owned by who? Let's take a quick look, see, because who owns them will give you an idea. Because, for example, I forget who. I don't think they're owned by Swatch. Because if they were Swatch, then boom, they would be. Ed is almost certainly. They're currently that they're making some in-house, but I think, for example, the one that won the Geneva Horological Society Award, that was a Sellita. Okay, the sector dial, the beautiful, and a lot of people on the board who voted for it rationalized that no, it's a Swiss movement, Sellita, just because it wasn't in-house. I mean, prior to the quartz crisis, nobody cared about in-house. Back in the 70s, everybody just bought off-the-shelf movements, off-the-shelf cases, and you got the design language came through by how those parts were put together and how the faces were presented and things of that nature. The Monaco, the Tag Heuer Monaco, the reason it came out is because the case manufacturer that Heuer used came out with a waterproof square case. Tag Heuer didn't. I mean, Heuer didn't make that case that's on the famous Monaco. You know, It really is a case of you have to no pun intended, it's a case of having to look at where the company comes from, what they're doing with it. Like in the case of Raymond Weil, okay, their Salida movement in that model, for example, I know for a fact that that model has a Salida movement. It still won the award. It's still a beautiful watch. Um, I would say it might be a little on the higher end of its price range, but it's not, inordinately expensive. I don't think it's a waste of money to own one of them. They're nice pieces. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? At Hagfish, I own a Raymond Weil Freelancer Collection Basquiat Edition Chrono. Nice. It's definitely Salida. That's what I didn't want to say it specifically unless I knew in that specific model. So now we have two verifications there. But it's definitely Salida. It's a great watch and a fine, accurate movement. I'm happy with it. Exactly. Salida makes, even I have said things about Salida, but their movements are good movements. A lot of their movements are based on expired ETA patents, but there's nothing wrong with that. If it's a good design, it's still a good design, you know. So yeah, I mean, and Raymond Weil has an interesting design language, and they do have good manufacturing and QC. You buy a Raymond Weil, you're not going to be disappointed with what you get. You're going to like looking at your wrist. Elusive man at Gian. I feel you, but I still love Longines. Like I said, I can't stand the bracelets feel cheap. Buy a nice leather strap. Otherwise, love them. Hagfish. Thank you, Dr. Kevin. And Frederique Constant. Are they in-house? Um, yes. Yes. Frederique Constant's movements are in-house. What they've been doing is they've been using machine finishing to make up for the costs of hand finishing, and they do a lot of CNC stuff, but that allows them to really do some beautiful stuff. This is an in-house movement. This is their uh, world timer. I love this watch. This is the best world timer you're going to get for less than 10K. And maybe the Omega Aquaterra world timer is slightly better at 9, right at the top of that level. But I don't know. I think this is a better casual wear slash suit watch. So if you're traveling and you only want to take one watch because you're afraid of losing it, or I mean losing anything you might have in your baggage or whatever, wear this, and you can wear this with a suit. You can wear this, with a polo shirt. It's a beautiful piece, and it's I mean, it really is a great world timer. You can adjust everything from the crown, everything. And it is an in-house movement. Look how beautiful that piece is. It's actually a Patek homage. It looks very much like the Patek world timer, although the Patek, the subdial is the small seconds, and it has a guilloche center dial instead of the raised map thing. But yeah, Frederique Constant. I just like, if you think about their perpetual calendar, that's an in-house. You can buy their perpetual calendar for a hair less than 10,000. Nobody else makes a mechanical perpetual calendar, not even the Chinese right now, for under 10. And that's in-house. Frederique Constant makes some nice stuff. I own one myself. Yep. Kevin comes back. Dr. Kevin says FC 100% in-house. I concur. Julius Caesar. Hello, hail Caesar. Hagfish. Frederique Constant has in-house movements, 7, 8, and 9 series movements, third party and in-group movements. Yes, this is true. They some of their earlier stuff had a lot of off-the-shelf stuff in it, but almost all of their new stuff is in-house. Like I said, this one's in-house. Their perpetual calendars in-house. Their chrono, all of the High Life series is in-house. An elusive man saying the same things I'm saying. Excellent value for the money. Great brand. It is a great brand. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Watch, Chris, my friend. We gotta get together for some beers sometime soon. You just missed the Wilhelmstrasse Fest here in Wiesbaden. It was awesome. Uh, although I was thinking about it. There's so many weird things going on in the world, but we have to celebrate life. Hey, so and Jean, Chris, dang, that's uh, see, I love it when it goes scrolls so far. Oh yeah, dang, that's some Budweiser I've never seen before. Yeah, that's it's the Czech, the original Budweiser, because when Augustus Busch started Anheuser-Busch, he just named his beer after a popular brand. I mean, it wasn't an international market back then. He didn't realize that one day people would be able to compare the two brands. So, hey, Rohit, how's it going? Gian, I'm hating Etta movements. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. 7750 is your friend. Uh, Gian, Solita's better than Etta. Yeah, although Solita got their start by using out of patent Etta movement designs. Julius Caesar, Gian, I don't know. I prefer Etta movements from my experience. See, so that's the beautiful thing about watch collecting is that we can all talk about our different opinions about, different technologies and manufacturers and the like. And as long as we stay polite and civil, we can have really interesting discussions. Julius Caesar. Personally, I think Etta movements from Longines are top notch. They keep just as good time as my higher end watches from Omega, Rolex, and JLC. Like I know Jean's not going to be happy about us talking about it, but that's all right. I recognize, people can have bad experiences, but I really, really like my Conquest moon phase calendar. I had the Master Collection, which is actually a prettier watch, but it's not as practical. And I wanted a more of a daily wear, so I switched over. Although the Master Collection's got a column wheel, and this one's a cam. And I think I said it earlier in the show. I think Longines is the only company that has a 7750 with a column wheel in it. Underscoring that even though it's Etta, it's actually in-house because Swatch Group, and they get a special movement from Etta. Gian, well done on the open case back. Well, yeah, the Oyster Quartz is such a unique watch. A lot of people don't recognize that. A lot of people just think, oh, Rolex made a quartz watch, but no, Rolex made a Rolex quartz watch. They made a hybrid movement. This is an electromechanical movement. There is a mechanical pallet fork banging away moving those hands. So there's a small electronic controlled motor that's driving an 11 joule movement. So that so it's actually a deadbeat mechanical movement being driven by a quartz regulated electric motor. Really cool piece. And so that's why I bought the aftermarket display back, put the original back in the box. It's not like it's going to go anywhere. And if I ever decide to resell, which I won't, I could always put the back on if they insist. But the movement is horologically significant and it's pretty. Rolex, this is more decorated than most of the pieces Rolex made in the same period because they were going out of their way to show that this was not a quartz watch in the traditional sense. So it's a beautiful movement in a beautiful piece and totally worth a display case back. Gian, Julius, I think the L888 movements by Longines are just Powermatic 80s in disguise. Well, Gian, chicken egg. The Powermatic 80 is derived from an Etta movement. The big thing about the Powermatic 80, and that's the easy way to determine it. So basically, if it's a Powermatic 80, it's derived from that Etta movement. The Etta movement's not derived from the Powermatic 80. And what they did on the Powermatic 80, the big things they did were they reduced the beat rate to slow the movement down to make to extend its interval for winding and such. It uses less energy. And they, in the case of the Tissot's, some of the other companies may have done it, but we've known it been done with the Tissot Powermatic 80. There are other companies that use the Powermatic 80 that did not do it, but the Tissot Powermatic 80's got plastic pallet fork and escapement wheel. Now, that's something you could also debate because plastic doesn't require lubrication, is very lightweight, so very low inertia, and makes just as good of a palette fork as something out of steel or silicon. But some people don't like that. I understand that. But the Powermatic 80 comes from the ETA movement. So if you see an ETA movement that looks like a Powermatic 80, it's the father, as it were, or older cousin or uncle of that Powermatic 80. It's not a Powermatic 80 that has been disguised. The Powermatic 80 is derived from those movements. Julius Caesar, Gian, they're not though, because the Powermatic 80 is a 2824 and the L88 is a 2892. Thank you, Julius. That's an excellent point to bring out as well. The 2892 is a higher level movement, and so the Powermatic 80 is derived from the other movement. So anything that's got a 2892 in it, by definition, is not even a predecessor to the Powermatic 80. But there are, the 2824 is was the movement that they modified to create the Powermatic 80. But so it's chicken egg. The ETA movement didn't come from they're both ETA movements, but the 2824 did not come from the Powermatic 80. The Powermatic 80 came from the 2824. Hagfish, thanks for the response. My pleasure. Rohit, in the past 2 years, I'm slowly having a strong affinity to dress watches, so I've moved out of many sports models. I have the Explorer, the 114-270, and Omega Speedy 1861 for sports models. Well, you can also have like models that straddle, or if you change the straps, you can go from sport to suit. You know, I keep my El Primero on a blue alligator with white stitching to keep it a little on the sporty side, but I still have the factory black strap, which makes it look very formal. And if you wanted, a clean face, I don't have that many clean faced watches anymore. I wear this with suits if I need something really clean faced. This I wear on leather when I want to wear it casual or with a suit, and I have a metal bracelet for it as well. And sometimes I'll throw it on a NATO. So I would say you could also get something that straddles, the states, as it were, and play with straps and get a lot more flexibility in your collection. Julius Caesar. To be honest, the most common movement architecture from brands that make in-house movements look similar to Solita, Etta, and Lamania. Ooh, good one bringing Lamania up. Lamania's legacy has fingers that still reach into the watchmaking community today, because the Speedmaster movements were originally based on Lamanias. Quite a few of the Omega movements were originally based on the Lamanias. The center minute hand chronos, like the Speedmaster 3, were all, or the Jedi are Lamania based movements. The 5100 had plastic parts, but the Omega version of it was the predecessor. I think it was the 3940. I forget the model number, had all metal parts. But Lamania, tremendous influence in the industry. So and then let's go even farther back and look at a movement that is still impacting the market today, and that would be the was used as a pocket watch. I was just about to say it, and I'm blanking on it. It'll come to me again. It has a small second. Was originally designed for pocket watches, and as watches got bigger, people were able to start using it in theirs. Panerai used it in the 111. It's killing me. It'll pop into my mind, and then I'll blurt it out while I'm talking later. And that one is quite popular and is still used to this day. A lot of small atelier watchmakers, a lot of artisanal watchmakers use that movement. And because it's got big plates, it's a 17 jewel movement, and it lends itself very well to skeletonization or decorating. Dornbluth uses it. It'll come to me. Hagfish, that's a cool Frederique. It really is a nice piece. They make some nice stuff. And I maintain this is the best world timer you're going to get for under 10K, with possibly exception being the being the Omega Aquaterra world timer, which is pushing the envelope. It's right at 9 and change. It's killing me now, that movement manufacturer for the, oh, well, it'll come to me. Frederique Constant makes great watches. Hey, Richard, I agree. Elusive Man. I don't like leather straps, Alex. I'll settle for rubber. I changed my Omega World Timer to its blue. Oh, yeah, so you've got the Omega World Timer. Very cool. That's right. I remember. To the blue rubber, and my Cartier Santos blue dial to the blue rubber. But it's leather, no, I'm waiting. Well, here, I currently wear my Santos XL on a rubber because it's summer and I would want to wear it with jeans and be more casual with it. So I have it on a rubber. I have a Milanese which breathes, but it's so shiny. And then I feel like it's just too much watch for jeans and a t-shirt. And I could wear it only with other things, but sometimes I like to wear it when I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. So put it on a rubber strap. Oh, um, Elusive Man, Longines to release a leather strap for my Zulu time. Well, no, I think it's an irregular opening. I think it's a 21 millimeter, isn't it? Because otherwise you could put anything in there. But then again, Longines does make blue leather straps for some of their other pieces with the same lug width. Like they make a blue leather strap for the Master Collection blue-faced Chrono Moonface. So get that strap and put it on your Zulu time. Waiting for a rubber strap, Elusive Man. I got that part. Julius Caesar. Love Frederique Constant. I have the PR Big Date silver dial and wears great on the wrist. Punches above its weight given the price tag without discounts considered. Well, and I had a nice chat with their it's on in the archive. I had a chat with their German director of sales at a Frederique Constant event a couple of months ago. And we were talking about it, and they really are trying to be the movement and complication company. So they're like, well, we don't care if you care about brand, but if you want a good world timer, you want a good chrono, you want a good perpetual calendar, we got it. So that's what they're trying to do, and I think they're succeeding. They're making watches that people want to own, no matter what name is on the front of it. Beautiful world timer, let me have it. Beautiful perpetual calendar, let me have it. Frederique Constant punches well above their weight. They really do make great watches. Elusive Man, one big example is the Cartier Santos Dual Time. That's a good watch. It was released last year. Was surprised YouTubers were unhappy because it's a Solita movement and not an in-house CM movement. Well, this is a Value 7. I think I mentioned it before. This is a Value 7753. Still a Cartier. In fact, if you want to really get funny, these are both Value 7753s, and this watch is worth retail less than $2,000. But it's not just the movement, it's what you do with it. It's not just the movement, it's what you do with that movement. What do they say? Face, case, and movement. Rowit, an exception to in-house being more desirable protects older Lemania-based caliber chronographs are way more collectible than their later chronographs with their in-house movements. Well, that's because also Lemania is a movement manufacturer of note. And they no longer exist. So people go, "Ooh, I want that Lemania," because they want that legacy, which is one of the reasons why, for example, Mont Blanc now has the Minerva movements in it, which really raised their game in the eyes of a lot of the collectors. The first generation Daytonas, the first generation Daytonas had the Zenith El Primero chrono movement in it. I mean, they did rework it very heavily to Rolex-ize it. But the first generation Daytona had a Zenith movement in it, and those are highly collectible because they're not the in-house Rolex movement. Although, like I said, they were highly modified. I think there was almost 40% of the movement was changed around to suit Rolex's need, and they slowed it down because the El Primero is a high beat, 5 hertz, 10 beats a second, and the Daytona, for the Daytona, they slowed it down to, 4 hertz, 8 beats. But Lamania has a tremendous legacy. Uh, the Like I said, the Omega Speedmaster Jedi, uh, that's got a Lamania bass in it. Center minutes, so it doesn't have a sub dial for the minutes for the stopwatch. There's a second hand in the center to tell you the minutes, so you can more easily see the minutes elapsed when you look at it. It's a beautiful movement, and that movement is a variation of the Lamania 5100. Gian, that's okay. Alex, Julius, everyone, you can all love Etta, but for me, I'm settled with Salida and Kanisi. To each their own, my friend. Gian, the Rolex quartz movement is still looking presentable even as a quartz. Exactly. Well, Rolex went through a lot of trouble so that they didn't get put into that bin of typical, because a lot of the Omega quartz pieces were just quartz movements, standard electrical motor driven movements, and that was one of the things that they took a hit during the quartz wars, is that they embraced quartz and Rolex didn't really. So Rolex came out of the gate with a higher level of respect from the community, which is one of the reasons they're number one today. Prior to the quartz wars, Omega was number one, generally speaking. Actually, yeah, Omega was number one back in the day, before, in the 70s, 50s, 60s. Rolex was a contender, heavy contender, but the quartz wars really allowed Rolex to distinguish themselves, and they came out of the gates ahead of the crowd, in my humble opinion. Your mileage may vary. Oscar, good evening. Gian, I've heard good things about Kanisi movements, but just want to let you know the Kanisi's architectures are similar to Etta. Well, Julius, you're right. And well, the thing is, though, is Etta didn't just buy Valjoux and some of these other companies that make up their stable, as it were. Unless you're talking about exotic complications, the 4, 5 gears you need, for a standard watch movement, you can only arrange them in a certain number of ways. And yeah, so a well functioning, good architecture is going to get repeated or copied or homaged or whatever, because yeah, there are only a certain number of ways you can cram gears into a box. But yeah, Eda's got a tremendous legacy in that. And so their fingerprints, just like Lamania's fingerprints, just like Valjoux's fingerprints, because Valjoux was bought by Eda a long time ago, but we still call them Valjoux movements because that was the company that originated them. You know, it matters. But yeah, a lot of the newer companies like Kanisi are standing on the shoulders of giants, as it were. The old scientist saying. Gian, to check my Tudor PO1 with Kanisi, 2 weeks of ownership, it was plus 2 seconds last week's stream, and now it's plus 4. My Longines before would have been plus 25 by now, plus 3 to 5 a day. Well, again, the Tudor's what, twice the cost of the Longines? I would expect it to be a better watch. Carter, enjoying the show, joined a bit late. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Well, we still got a little bit of time before the top of the hour. I've got to finish the issue proof checking for the June issue, so I've got to get up early tomorrow and actually do real work. So I'm not going to be able to run too late today. So I'll probably close out in the next 10. But if you have any questions, now's the time. Val Fleurier for the Panerai. Well, Val Fleurier has made movements they made movements for a lot of people. And I definitely think, and Panerai's come back a lot. I definitely am willing to give Panerai. I don't know if I have Panerai in my sights, but I'd give one another chance if one came up in front of me at the right price. Rowett, I have the OG Santos Carrera Curry, Ref 2961 and two tone, old school from the 80s on a steel bracelet with the gold screws. Love it. Um, I gave my daughter a two-tone Santos a while back for her wedding. I didn't buy it new. It was actually in the family for a long, long time from her mother's side. Uh, but Santos is a classic piece. When you think about it, that 24 millimeter Santos and this 42 millimeter Santos are all family members. That design and the Santos. A lot of people don't know this was the first sports watch. It was a pilot's watch. Cartier designed it in 1904. The Cartier, the original Cartier, designed it for Santos Dumont, the Brazilian aviator, who was a competitor to the Wright brothers, to give you some contextual historical information. And Santos complained to Cartier. I'm hoping over some strong beverages. Toast to the memory of that potential conversation. That Santos Dumont wanted to be able to look at the time while he was flying the aircraft and his hands were busy. And so Cartier designed the Santos for him. Prior to that, watches existed, but they were called wristlets. And women wore them because they didn't have pockets. But some of them, like Breguet, made one for, I believe, the Duchess of Poland or something like that, some royalty. Wristwatches for women existed long before wristwatches for men. And World War I killed the pocket watch because you can't fight a war with a pocket watch. Your hands are busy flying an aircraft, firing a rifle, driving a tank, whatever. And the first mainstream wristwatches were leather cases that soldiers would strap their pocket watches on their wrist so they could see their wrist while their hands were busy. And for those who came in late, wristwatch check. I'm wearing my 41 millimeter ceramic sub. Really like this piece. Andre Jensen, hey. Yes, when it is in-house. Chanel bought 20% of Kinesi, so now they're 12.1 are in-house. Well, I would say, if not in-house, then controlled manufacture. How's that sound? But if they own a significant share in the movement house, that means they have a significant interest in how the movements are made. And that's what we're looking for, right? I mean, it's not like we're looking for some magic stamp that says in-house and then it makes everything cool. It's that we look at in-house to mean that the company that went through the effort to make that movement cared about what they were doing, like this in-house Frederique Constant. Right? And this is not an expensive watch. You can buy this new, I believe, for less than 6,000. And as I've said many times on this channel, if not in general, it's the best world timer aside from the Omega Aquaterra world time for under 10K. Sheehan, great World War I history. My pleasure. Dejan, De, Jean Ange Rings. Nice to meet you, my friend. I have just joined the stream. Welcome aboard. But I'd like to say in-house movements are good for uniquely shaped watches, or if you are achieving some constant force or some mechanical feat. Oh, couldn't you buy a constant force escapement from someone else? You know, you could. I don't know. I mean, it would be expensive, but you could probably buy one from someone. I know a lot of the companies that are doing specific constant force, like Lederer. I have a very interesting interview with Bernhard Lederer. He's got double remontoirs in some of his pieces. And a remontoire is a constant force escapement mechanism. You probably know since you're asking. But a remontoire, for those who don't know, a remontoire is a constant force escapement mechanism that has a little spring that runs the balance wheel, and the big spring runs the little spring. So since the little spring is constantly rewinding and discharging, it's maintaining a relatively even force to run the balance wheel. My favorite constant force mechanism is the Girard-Perregaux constant force escapement with the blade technology, because it uses the snap of a silicon blade to drive the mechanism, and the mainspring just drives that snap. And since it's a snap, it's the same force every single time. I love constant force escapements. But you're right. Some of the more exotic escapements, movements are in-house. But it's getting to the point now where you can do some pretty sophisticated things with off-the-shelf, ordered movements. Especially look at Baltic with their micro rotors that they get from China. or companies that use I think Baltic also uses the seagull chrono movement from China. You can get some serious complications now off the shelf, as it were. But I get your point. I mean, the higher end complications are almost all in-house manufacturers. But then, if you think about, moon phase calendar chrono, that's pretty complicated, and almost all of them use the ETA. This also, but this is arguably in-house because Longines is a Swatch Group company. Oh, Malad, nice to see you, my friend. Glad to catch the live stream. Glad that you caught it. Have I seen the new Tudor Black Bay 54 Blue? I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I love blue to begin with, and the Black Bay family is nice. The 54 is on the small side for me, but I'm not buying all of these watches. They have to be available for all of you as well, and not all of us have the same sized wrists and hands. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. Stan Clayton. Hey, Stan. Wittenauer had the clock in Amelia Earhart's plane. Good or bad thing? Well, Wittenauer is known for having some good stuff. They have a great horological legacy, actually. Gian, by the way, Alex, can you tell us the points being checked on movements? There are 2 points, 3 points. What points in movement? You mean like points to look for in a movement? I don't quite get you, but when it comes to a movement, I would say the most important point is it mechanical or not, right? Once you get through that hurdle, then you look for who made it, and who made it. You might be surprised, it's not all of the great movements are made in Switzerland. Germany makes some really nice things. Unitas was the name of the other movement I wanted to talk about that was highly influential in the industry. I knew it would pop in my head and I'd blurt it out. So you look at the movement and you look at the legacy of the movement. So it might be a company that you don't know, but then there's a Unitas in it. So you're like, hey, not a bad movement in there. So I would just keep an eye on, that's why I was saying before, if you're going to buy a watch while you're saving up for that watch, take the time to research things like the movement that's in it. What other watches with similar movements, or what other watches with similar functionality have that, or other things about the movement. So the more you know about it, the more you can appreciate what you have. Elusive Man, for next week's topic, if I prefer mainstream watches or different watches, so I stand out for the crowd. For example, I love my Rados because you hardly ever see one. You know what? I'll make a note of that. Let's do that. Let's make a note. Got my Mont Blanc. I keep a paper notepad for my to-do list, and I like to write with it's a beautiful fountain. I like to write with a fountain because it keeps me in practice, and writing helps reinforce what you're thinking. So for the show, we'll talk about mainstream versus eccentric pieces. But then again, we'd have to, actually, that makes for a good show because we'd have to also define what makes an eccentric piece, right? Because you could look at a watch, say, for example, like the Mont Blanc Nicolas Roussec. And it's kind of an eccentric piece because it's not your traditional the chrono discs spin, not the needles. It's interesting presentation. You could also look, for example, at a watch like the Snoopy, right? Snoopy's eccentric. Some people wonder why the heck is Snoopy on a watch? And it's always a fun story to tell them why. But I know what you're talking about. You're talking about interesting, funky pieces. And let's do that. If not next week, the week after, because I still want to talk about traveling with watches. But we can talk about mainstream versus eccentric watches next week, and we'll talk about traveling with watches another week. I keep pushing that topic off, but it's a evergreen topic. We can always talk about that. Let's see. Gian, Elusive Man, Rado have Powermatic 80 movements, Yeah, but theirs don't have plastic parts in them, and not all of Brados have Powermatic 80s. Some of them have just straight up 2894s or 2824 movements in them. Just because it's an ETA movement doesn't mean it's a Powermatic 80. Elusive Man, not the ones I have. Denanje, I like off-the-shelf movements and in-house movements, but I feel there is a chance to go wrong with in-house movements because now quality control is upon you. Well, that's true too, because some companies just do in-house to say that they've done in-house, and there might be some issues with those movements. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get sued by anybody, but there are some companies out there who have in-house movements that have gotten some slings and barbs about repair issues, customer service issues on repairs and things of that nature, because sometimes they don't think all the way through about the service side of it. Is Unitas ETA? Yes. Unitas was just like Valjoux, bought by ETA, and that's why it's. And again, we recognize the legacy of Unitas in the name that we keep on one of their most famous movements, because the Unitas is Uh, there's still 2 variations of the Unitas available. I think it's with small seconds at 6 or small seconds at 9, and a lot of watches. You can get the Unitas in watches that are as cheap as $500. I think Hamilton has one, and as expensive as tens of thousands, because a lot of the, like I was saying, a lot of the handmade boutiques will take the Unitas design and either take a Unitas and rework it or just make their own Unitas using that design. And because it has very big plates that are lend themselves very well to decoration or skeletonization, it's a 17 jewel movement. It's just a straight up three-hander, small second, so it looks elegant, and it's a big movement, so it can go into a 40, a 39 millimeter case and fill up that display back nicely, you know. So the Unitas is a good movement, and it is an ETA. It was ETA bought the company a long time ago, just like Valjoux and some others. Gian, sorry everyone, I'm making it known I'm a movement snob. That's all right. Say you're particular. Elusive Man, very good topic. Thank you. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Hey, hey, my in-house Seiko 8L35 runs with 1 second per day variation, Seiko power. Yeah, Dr. Bob, my Nightmare, that was one of the first examples I came up with when I first started talking about how integrated Seiko is. They even make their Epson division even makes the crystal oscillators that go in their quartz watches. So on that note, we're at the top of the hour. It's a new week. Everyone have a fantastic week, and most especially have a great evening. Until next time, everybody, have a great one.